I'm Chef Melanie, and I'm coming to you today from the Festival Foods Kitchen. And today we're going to be preparing our famous Festival Foods Mom's Meatloaf. Now this is a wonderful meatloaf all in itself, but we're going to be making 4 tasty recipes using this meatloaf. Zesty glazed meatloaf sliders, stuffed bell peppers, Salisbury steak with mushroom gravy, and gourmet Swedish meatballs with white wine gravy. The first way to enjoy our meatloaf is simply to line a baking sheet with parchment paper so you have easy cleanup and so it absorbs some of the oil that will come out of the meatloaf as it bakes. And we're going to bake it at 350 degrees for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, or until the internal temperature reaches 165 degrees Fahrenheit. A faster way to enjoy our mom's meatloaf is just to spray a sheet of parchment paper that's lining a baking sheet with cooking spray, and then invert the meatloaf pan, turn it upside down, and just loosen it out. This is going to cook a lot faster this way. And what we're going to do is slice it, pre-slice it, and lay it out evenly on, and voila! Bake for 30 minutes and it'll be done. We're just going to add 2 more ingredients to our festival's famous Mom's Meatloaf mix, just to give it a little more zestiness. A teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce and a ½ cup of ketchup. And you can mix this with a spoon if you like, but I think the best way is to just get in there with your hands. Disposable gloves. And I'm just going to get right in there and mix the meatloaf so it gets completely combined. There we go. We're all ready to shape them into our... Okay. And now we're going to form our sliders. We're just going to make a meatball and place it on our parchment lined baking sheet, and we'll place 2 together right next to each other with plenty of space in between, probably about. Okay, next comes a really fun, easy cleanup part. We're going to take another sheet of parchment paper. We're going to spray it. We're going to place it right on top of our slider balls. And we're going to press down to form the patties. See how fast and easy that is? And because we sprayed it, it lifts right off. Now we're going to make our glaze. And it's just 1 cup of ketchup, tablespoons of the Wee Willie's sandwich relish. Mix the sliders. They may look a little large right now, but these are going to shrink up as they cook for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to pull them out. And okay, now our zesty glazed meatloaf sliders have been in the oven for about 15 minutes or so, and we're just going to put another bit of the glaze on top, so they have a really nice amount of glaze. It's going to give it a lot of nice zesty flavor. We're going to put them back in for another 10 minutes and they'll be ready. And now these sliders are nicely glazed, and I'm just going to put a little square of smoked cheddar cheese on top and just let them melt for about a minute or 2. And then on our zesty glazed meatloaf sliders, just a touch of mayonnaise on our butter toasted bun and place that right on top. Now you're ready to eat. Okay, next we're going to move on to our stuffed bell peppers. And first you need to make sure that you wash them thoroughly and dry them. And then I'll show you an easy way to prepare the shell. Twist the stem off, slice them in half, and then simply scoop out the veins. And all you have to do is scoop them over the trash. Or we're taking 2 pounds of our mom's meatloaf. And we're going to add 1 package of Uncle Ben's ready Spanish rice. And that's going to give it tons of flavor. and make it a complete meal. And I'm just going to mix this with my hands once again. The best tool in the kitchen, clean hands or gloved hands. So now we're going to be stuffing our peppers, and just use a spoon and your gloved hand as a guide. I'm going to fill them kind of full because they do cook down quite a bit. And then just fill in the gaps if you have a little left over. Just fill in where they're a little shy of filling. Now we're going to mix together our sauce that goes over the top of the stuffed bell peppers, and it's just 3 simple ingredients. Condensed tomato soup, beef broth, and diced tomatoes. And I chose the tomatoes that are flavored with green pepper, celery, and onion, and that adds a really nice flavor to the. Stir that together really quickly. Just want to make sure you get the, and we're just going to pour this right over the peppers. We're just going to cover this tightly with foil, and we're going to bake it for about 30 minutes. And then we'll remove the foil and we'll add our Parmesan cheese topping. It looks like our peppers are ready for their cheese now. I'm just going to remove the foil and top each pepper with a nice sprinkle of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. And that's just going to give it a nice zest. Now I'm just going to temp the stuffed peppers to make sure they're 165 degrees in the middle before we pull them out of the oven. They look beautiful. Gorgeous color. Our next recipe is Salisbury steak with a mushroom gravy. And this is so sliced through. So you get 8 nice, even Salisbury steak patties. Okay? And we're just going to shape these into our traditional oval Salisbury steak shape. This is really simple. You're going to place it in a preheated skillet. Now our Salisbury steaks are really nicely browned, so we're going to remove them to a platter to hold them while we make our sauce. Make our mushroom gravy that goes with our Salisbury steak. And we're just going to add in 1 diced onion. And we're going to use the same pan that we browned the Salisbury steak in to get all those yummy crispy spoons of unsalted butter. And just saute the onions, and all the moisture from the onions is going to lift all that yummy flavor from the bottom of the pan. And that's going to come up and flavor our sauce. And I need about 2 teaspoons or 2 large cloves of garlic, so I'm just going to squeeze about that amount into the pan. Okay, we're going to make our sauce now. We're going to add our healthy request cream of mushroom soup. 1 cup of half and half. I'm just eyeballing it. And if you'd like to enhance the flavor of the sauce, you can add a half a cup of red wine. A few fresh thyme sprigs. Now we've got our mushroom gravy all bubbling, and we're going to add our Salisbury steaks back to the pan to finish cooking. And we're going to simmer this about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. Again, while you're cooking it, and then remove it at the end, and you get the flavor that it imparts with the gravy. And you can just on our gravy, we're going to season it to taste with freshly ground pepper, a little bit of sea salt. Our recipe today is gourmet Swedish meatballs with white wine gravy. And it's really, really yummy. It also starts with our famous Mom's Meatloaf from Festival Foods. And we're just going to add a few ingredients to the mix. We're going to add some garlic powder, half a teaspoon, and we'll add a teaspoon of nutmeg, ground nutmeg, and a tablespoon of brown sugar. We're also going to add 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. It's going to give it a nice, rich texture. And so it gets well mixed. You want all those spices well distributed throughout the meatloaf. You don't want it to be strong in nutmeg or garlic powder and just one. And we're going to make our meatballs. And it really helps to dip a spoon into some warm water. You can also dip your fingertips into some warm water, and it keeps the meatball from sticking to your hands or gloves. And I'm just going to shape them into a nice ball and place them in our Dutch oven for browning. We're going to make our wonderful Swedish meatball white wine gravy. We're going to add half a cup of butter to the same skillet that we browned our meatballs in. The bits that are on the bottom of, stuck to the bottom of the Dutch oven are going to come up and flavor the gravy beautifully. Alright, now all our butter is melted, so we're going to add in our flour, sprinkle in our flour. There we go. And you want to stir that in, all that flour to dissolve into the melted butter. Ready to add our liquid to our roux to make our gravy. And I'm going to start with a cup of white wine. We'll just whisk that in. And we're going to put in 3 cups of chicken broth or chicken stock. You want to whisk it constantly so you don't end up with any lumps in your yummy Swedish meatball gravy. And we're going to add 1 cup of heavy cream. That's what gives Swedish meatballs its rich ground nutmeg. And some freshly ground pepper. I'm going to bring that to a boil. Now that our gravy has come to a boil and thickened nicely, we're just going to add our brown meatballs back into the gravy in the Dutch oven. And we're going to let them simmer. Stir them around in the gravy. And we're going to make sure they get all submerged in the gravy. And we're going to bring that to a simmer and simmer covered for about 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, our meatballs are ready to serve. I'm just going to season it to taste with freshly ground pepper and a pinch of sea salt. Give that a stir. And now I'm just going to dish up my meatballs. They look delicious. Yum. And just serve it with some fluffy mashed potatoes. Make sure you give people lots of yummy gravy. And there's our last dish. Here we are with our final dishes, all made from one simple but delicious ingredient. Festival Foods Mom's Meatloaf. We start with a really simple meal of meatloaf with mashed potatoes, a great appetizer or light dinner, zesty glazed meatloaf sliders, stuffed bell peppers, Salisbury steak with mushroom gravy, and Swedish meatballs with white wine gravy. Thank you for cooking with me today. Have a great meal from our family at Festival Foods.